We begin at chapter 21, verse 6. A fortune made by a lying tongue is a fleeting vapor and a deadly snare. So if you're lying to get what you desire, you're not building on the fundamentals. It's kind of interesting. You watch business channels and business people, and they talk about the fundamentals of a business. Well, in lying, your fundamentals are deception, and deception isn't real. And your fundamentals are using someone else in a negative way, and that causes them to want to seek the destruction of you and your business. So if you make a fortune by lying, number one, you don't have really anything that you're basing your fortune on. And number two, you've alienated those who might help and protect your property and business. So it disappears. And the deadly snare part comes in because guess what? You've angered people, you probably angered the law, and you've angered God. So it's a deadly snare for your life and your success in the world. And it certainly is a deadly snare for your soul, since you've gone against God's commands and not treated him as God. Let's go to 7. The violence of the wicked will drag them away, for they refuse to do what is right. Okay, so the wicked, those who turn their back on God, do violence. That means they cause injury to others. And this results first in God dragging them away into hell, because they've turned their back on others and on Christ. And secondly, it results in them angering society. And like we just talked about, when you anger society, you tend to get on the wrong side of the law, and your friends and your neighbors seek your downfall. You refuse to do what is right, you refuse to do what is in God's sight good. That leads to death. And it leads to death for others, but it also leads to death for yourself. When Jesus said those who live by the sword perish by the sword, he was saying violence drags down the wicked. When you do violence, violence is done back to you, by God and by man. 8. The way of the guilty is devious, but the conduct of the innocent is upright. Judge Amy Coney Barrett sits in court this week, and she answers questions. And she has no notes on her pad. And people are impressed. And I thought, well, how difficult is it to answer questions about your life when your life is an open book? Not really difficult at all. Now, as your memory fades, that may change. But if I had to answer questions about my life, not hard. What were you doing yesterday? Well, I spent time with my family. I went to church. That's what I did yesterday. What were you doing the day before? I spent time with my family. I went to church. Okay? It's not devious at all. There's no twists or turns to my life. It would be a very uninteresting autobiography. But when you are guilty, you don't want people seeing those realities. You cloak yourself in deception and fog, and I don't know how the two-faced people can keep up with all their different identities and lies, and who do I tell this to, and who do I tell this to? And when you're a police officer, one of the things they do is try to catch you in these various conjectures. They'll ask you, what happened in reverse order? There's different ways they do this. Because you become devious. And in the process of deceiving, sometimes you get lost yourself. So the guilty, they need lots of notes. They need a lot of stuff to keep track of what's going on, because they're going to get caught out eventually, stumble over their own lies. 9. Better to live on a corner of the roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife. Well, this shows up again. Before, the wife was like a drip. Now the wife drives you out. I've seen this in marriages where a husband or a wife, it can actually go either way, wants to be off at work all the time. Because it's better to be working hard and getting tired and weary and all these things. It's better to labor than to have a wife who's constantly nagging or fighting with you. So this is a verse of warning when you're getting married. Find out what's the temperament of the woman you're marrying, or what's the temperament of the man you're marrying. And if the temperament is quarrelsome, then probably don't marry them. It's also a warning to wives and to husbands, don't be the quarrelsome spouse. You're just going to drive your spouse away. Verse 10. The wicked man craves evil. His neighbor gets no mercy from him. Okay, wicked goes against the plans of God. Get our definition out there again. Craves what causes death, evil for other people. Also craves what causes death for himself, but here it's really focused on for other people. And so the wicked man, he's going to tear down his neighbor. He's going to do things which hurt your property, your business, your life, your faith. Because he seeks after the things of darkness. He doesn't seek after the things of God. So if your neighbor is wicked, then don't depend upon them doing something good for you. Live a very upright and righteous life, very, very much in tune with God's commands, because he's not going to give you any mercy. God is. He's not going to help you out when trouble comes. God will. Your friends at church, who, Lord willing, are not wicked people, they'll help you out in times of trouble. They'll show you mercy when you're in debt. But this guy who's wicked, don't put any trust that he's going to help you out when things are bad. 11. When a mocker is punished, the simple gain wisdom. When a wise man is instructed, he gets knowledge. The simple need things to become clear to them in obvious ways. So you have someone who mocks, someone who's trying to tear down other people and their knowledge and their proclamations. He's trying to tear down the word of God. And when that person receives their comeuppance, those who need obvious things, which could well be us, see that and realize what he said first is wrong, the mocker, and doing that sort of thing is wrong. Okay? I shouldn't seek to try to tear down others' good words. I shouldn't attack others and try to harm them. And the people who do all this tearing down, they're not giving wisdom out. Let's go to the people who are building up, and we'll gain wisdom from them. Which leads to the second part. A wise man, a person who fears the Lord and seeks after the Lord's knowledge, then receives this information, and from it they actually gain instruction. In other words, they gain knowledge. They gain the ability to apply this information to life, to believe the information. If you're a fool or a mocker, then you receive the information, you attack it, you don't internalize it. And so it never becomes something which changes your life for the better. We will stop there.